There is a moment in life when we feel time more than we feel anything else. A moment when standing up from a chair takes more courage than climbing a mountain once did. But what if I told you not all strength is lost, it's simply dormant? What if regaining the vitality in your legs and in your life begins not with a workout or a walker, but with a single bite of something powerful, something ancient, something backed by science? This is more than nutrition. This is about claiming your second act with pride. We often forget that food is more than sustenance. It's not just calories and macros. It's connection, it's culture, it's chemistry. The meals we once shared with loved ones, the tastes that remind us of laughter, of safety, of being cared for, they live in us. Every bite carries the imprint of a memory, and those memories carry messages of strength, of resilience, of joy. There are certain foods that don't just nourish you, they remember you. They hold the code to who you used to be and who you still are beneath the fatigue, beneath the fear, beneath the years. When you eat what once loved you back, those beets your grandmother roasted, that earthy root that stained your fingertips red but powered your blood and your breath, your body listens. And it doesn't just digest, it responds. Because love isn't just emotional, it's biochemical. It shows up in nitric oxide that opens blood vessels, in minerals that trigger muscle repair, in antioxidants that silence inflammation. And when you eat what loved you back, you don't just feed hunger, you awaken something that went quiet inside you long ago. The body is always waiting for you to remember that food is the original form of care. Before pills, before rehab routines, before physical therapy appointments, there was food. The kind that signaled healing not through labels or slogans, but through sensation, through familiarity, through true truth. Your muscles remember what strength felt like. Your bones remember movement, and certain foods, the right ones, the remembered ones, act like keys unlocking dormant doors inside you. This isn't nostalgia, this is neurology. The same regions of the brain that light up from love, light up from flavor, scent, texture, and the nourishment that feels personal, feels intimate, feels ancestral, travels further than any manufactured substitute ever could. The right food brings back more than energy. It brings back dignity. It brings back the instinct to rise again, to stand taller, to take back the ground you thought you'd lost. Because you never lost it. It was simply waiting for you to feed it what it always knew, that healing starts with recognition. And recognition starts on your tongue with what you choose to honor as sacred, healing, and real. The leg remembers what the mind forgot. Not just in the poetic sense, but in the literal, biological reality of how the human body stores movement, memory, and meaning. Long after the conscious mind has surrendered to the idea of decline, the body carries its own archive, a record of every step you've ever taken, every hill you've climbed, every time you stood up for someone or something that mattered. There are fibers woven into your legs that don't forget motion just because you stopped using them as often. They remember rhythm. They remember the tempo of morning walks and the cadence of a slow dance. They remember what it feels like to rise from a chair without effort, to walk through a doorway without gripping the sides, to chase a child or walk beside a loved one at sunset without fear of falling behind. The nerves may grow slower, the joints stiffer, but beneath all that, the muscle memory remains intact, sleeping, waiting. Waiting not for motivation, but for activation. And it doesn't take a miracle. It takes a message, a signal from the inside that says, it's time again. That signal often begins with what you put into your body. Specific nutrients, like the nitric oxide precursors found in certain root vegetables, send oxygen, rich blood back to the lower extremities, back to the very places that felt abandoned. And the moment those muscles receive what they've been starved of, circulation, fuel, acknowledgement, they respond not in weeks, but sometimes in hours. The mitochondria in your muscle cells don't count age. They count opportunity. And when they get it, they do what they were always meant to do, move you. Movement isn't just physical. It's emotional. It's symbolic. To stand up again is to say, I remember who I was, and I refuse to believe that version of me is gone. The brain may try to forget, out of fear, out of habit, out of the constant whisper of limitations, but the legs will always try to remind you. They'll tremble first, not from weakness, but from excitement, from possibility, from the first steps back into strength. Because the truth is, decline is not a sentence, it's a state, and states can be changed. The neurobiology of muscle retention, especially in older adults, proves that with the right nutritional support, even long dormant pathways can reactivate. The leg doesn't ask for youth. It asks for circulation. It asks for care. It asks to be remembered the way it remembers you, not as fragile, not as tired, but as capable. You may forget what it felt like to trust your body, but your body hasn't forgotten what it felt like to carry you forward. It's simply been waiting for the right invitation to show you again. Aging is not a decline. It's an invitation to rebuild smarter, to return to the body with wisdom instead of weariness, to shift from survival into conscious restoration. It's easy to internalize the messages that aging is loss of speed, strength, mobility, clarity. But what those messages fail to acknowledge is that aging is also a gain of awareness, of precision, of a deeper understanding of what truly matters. In youth, strength was taken for granted. In age, strength becomes sacred. And when you begin to see your body as something fading, but as something transforming, the approach shifts from trying to hold on to the past to actively creating a more sustainable future. Science now confirms what it has long whispered: you don't have to train harder, you have to train smarter. You don't need to eat more. You need to eat more intentionally. Certain foods, especially those rich in natural nitrates and anti-inflammatory compounds, don't just prevent further breakdown, they ignite repair. They tell the body, I still believe in you, and the body responds in kind. The muscles of the legs, particularly vulnerable to aging, are also among the most responsive when given proper support. Increased circulation, targeted nutrients, thoughtful movement. And it begins with one decision: to nourish instead of neglect. The body you have right now is still listening, still adapting, still capable of change. The narrative of decline is loud, but the biology of repair is louder when you give it the tools it needs. As we age, we gain the advantage of discernment. We know what drains us and what restores us. We learn to choose food that isn't trendy, but timeless. We seek out movements that aren't punishing, but empowering. We begin to understand that strength isn't about pushing harder. It's about recovering faster. And all of that starts from within. The aging body becomes wiser in how it allocates energy, how it heals, how it reacts. Instead of resisting that wisdom, we're invited to work with it, to align with its rhythm, to trust its process. Because aging is not a punishment. It's a portal to a different kind of vitality. One that doesn't demand perfection, but celebrates progress. One that doesn't fear slowness, but honors sustainability. One that doesn't chase youth, but cultivates resilience. You rebuild not as you once were, but as someone who knows better, who listens deeper, who honors the signals your body gives you and responds with care instead of criticism. And when you respond that way, the body, no matter how many years it's carried, begins to carry you back. You're not just eating for energy. You're eating for independence, for dignity, for the right to move freely without asking for help, without waiting for someone to offer an arm, without hesitating at the thought of stairs or standing up from a chair. Food isn't just fuel, it's the foundation of freedom. Every bite becomes a decision not just about how you feel in the next hour, but about how you live in the next decade. Independence isn't measured only in steps taken. It's measured in how you take them confidently, steadily, without fear that your body won't cooperate. And that confidence is built in part by what you choose to nourish it when foods rich in natural compounds that improve circulation, oxygen delivery, inflammation control, and muscle activation become more than nutrients. They become lifelines. Because when your legs are strong, your life expands, your world grows. You're not limited to the closest seat or the flattest path. You're not shrinking to fit into a safer version of yourself. You're standing taller, moving wider, reaching further. And that strength doesn't come only from resistance bands or mobility drills. It begins at the cellular level with the messages your food sends to your body. It says, you still have places to go. It says, you deserve to carry your own groceries, to take yourself on walks, to open doors without waiting. Independence is emotional as much as it is physical. When you can move freely, you feel more yourself. You make different decisions. You say yes to more. You return to the garden, the sidewalk, the kitchen people. You stop planning your life around limitations and start planning it around possibilities. And it begins not in the gym, not at physical therapy, but at the table. The simple daily act of choosing food that strengthens rather than weakens is not about diet. It's about reclaiming authority over your own life. It's quiet declaration that you are not done yet, that you are not giving into fragility or fear, that you trust your body to meet you are and carry you further than you've dared to go lately. And that trust is built one nourishing decision at a time. When you eat in a way that supports leg strength, balance, joint health, and endurance, you're not just feeding muscles. You're feeding movement. You're fueling your ability to say, I've got this. Not a bravado, but out of truth, because the body doesn't forget how to be free. It simply needs the right ingredients to remember. Science confirms what the soul has always known: healing is possible at any age, not just theoretically, not in some distant, abstract way, but in real, observable, measurable terms that validate what the heart has long believed in silence. We are not made to wither without hope. We are made with systems that adapt, with tissues that repair, with muscles that respond even after decades of disuse. The soul may whisper quietly through intuition, through longing, through a persistent belief that something better is still possible, but science now echoes it loudly through research, through data, through biological truth. Muscle regeneration does not retire at 60 or 70 or 80. The body still responds. Not to punishment, not to desperation, but to care, to consistency, to nourishment. When nitric oxide production is reignited, when circulation returns to forgotten limbs, when inflammation recedes and mitochondrial function is restored, the transformation is not spiritual metaphor. It is physiological fact. The senior who once struggled to rise from a chair can, within hours of receiving the right compounds, feel strength returning to their legs. And that return is more than just blood flow. It is a signal. A message that says you still have access to your power. The medical world has now caught up with what ancient practices always honor. Food is medicine. Motion is healing, rest is restoration, and belief is a biochemical state that impacts everything from hormone regulation to recovery speed. How do we? When you align the soul's desire to feel alive with the body's innate ability to repair, you activate something extraordinary. You turn meals into messages, choices into change, and aging into an opportunity instead of a sentence. Scientific studies have documented this, that even small nutritional shifts can produce large functional gains in older adults. Not just in laboratory settings, but in real homes, in real lives, in people who were told it was too late. Healing is not a privilege of the young. It is a birthright of the living. The cells that once built your body are still there. The pathways that once carried your strength have not disappeared. They have only dimmed, waiting for the spark of attention, of love, of nourishment to light them up again. And that spark can come from something as simple as a single meal. Rich in the elements your body once thrived on and still can. The food you eat today is not just passing through you. It is engaging with your biology, reminding it how to rebuild, how to reawaken, how to believe again. There is a kind of healing that comes not from outside interventions, but from within. The healing that begins the moment you decide to return to yourself with compassion, with knowledge, and with the powerful tools that science now confirms are not only effective but immediate. Healing is not linear, not always visible at first glance, but it is happening one cell at a time. Every time you choose to support instead of suppress, to nourish instead of neglect, to feed your future instead of just your appetite. Because even now, especially now, you are still worth rebuilding. Healing isn't just physical. It's emotional nourishment too. The kind that seeps into the body not through medicine alone, but through meaning, through connection, through a quiet return to self. We often speak of healing as something clinical, something measured by lab results, mobility scores, or blood pressure. But long before any of those numbers shift, something much deeper begins to stir. The sense that you matter enough to heal, that your well-being is not a luxury but a birthright. That belief alone feeds parts of you that no supplement ever could. Emotional nourishment is what fills in the space between effort and outcome. It's what makes consistency sustainable, because you don't just eat to fuel your muscles. You eat to affirm your worth. You eat to remember that your body is still yours, still listening, still responding to care, even after being ignored, criticized, or misunderstood. When you feed yourself intentionally, especially with foods rooted in healing properties, those rich in natural compounds that reduce inflammation, increase blood flow, and regenerate tired muscle, you're not just taking care of your body, you're taking care of the part of you that once wondered if you were too far gone to try. There's something deeply human in the act of choosing nourishment, something sacred in the way a simple beet, a vibrant leafy green, or a bowl of warmth can say to the body, I see you, I'm with you, I want you to feel safe again. Because safety is the soil where healing grows. When the nervous system feels supported, not rushed, not punished, not forced, the entire body shifts into repair. Muscles respond better, digestion improves, sleep deepens. And that's not magic, that's science responding to love. Emotional nourishment is the difference between eating to survive and eating to thrive. It's the shift from restriction to permission. It's what allows you to enjoy the process rather than endure it. It reminds your inner child, the one who maybe never learned how to rest with guilt or feed themselves without shame, that it's safe to be cared for now. That healing doesn't have to look like a boot camp or a diet plan, but can instead begin with a single, thoughtful choice repeated in rhythm with compassion. The truth is, our emotional landscape directly influences our biological function. Cortisol doesn't just rise from stress, it rises from feeling unseen. And healing begins when you finally see yourself again, not as broken, but as whole enough to begin. When you eat in a way that honors both your body and your spirit. When you create rich rituals of nourishment that say, you matter, you are worth this. you aren't just recovering strength, you are recovering relationship. The one you have with yourself, and in that relationship, food becomes a conversation, not a command. Movement becomes a celebration, not a chore. Progress becomes an unfolding, not a deadline. And the healing that results from this kind of emotional nourishment is not only more sustainable, it's more profound because it reaches into the very places where physical healing begins to enchain: the brain, the heart, the brain, the story you tell yourself about who you are and what is still possible.